Mira Halden walked through the halls of Orion Ridge Interstellar Academy like a faint shadow. Students passed her every day, brushing by her without truly seeing her. It was not that they disliked her. It was worse, they simply did not notice her at all. She was a quiet figure, slim and pale, with dark hair that she kept tied back in a plain ponytail. She wore the academy uniform like everyone else, kept her head down, and moved with silent steps. She was so ordinary that even the school's facial recognition doors sometimes failed to register her presence on the first try to most people. Mira was nobody, and she had learned to accept that. Every morning she arrived early. Sometimes before the school lights had fully turned on. She liked the quiet moments before the hallways filled with chatter, drama, and the constant noise of teenage life. She would sit at her desk, take out her tablet, and review the work she had done the night before, coding alien transmissions for the Earth Defense Coalition. A job she was technically not supposed to have. But Mira was not a rule breaker. She simply had skills that no one else her age did. She could read patterns in static. She could hear meaning in noise. She understood alien language structures better than some analysts twice her age. Her mind worked in a way she never tried to explain to others because she knew they wouldn't understand, so she kept it to herself. Today was like any other day. Students laughed and joked. Some argued. Some flirted beside the lockers. Some hurried because they were late. And Mira walked through all of them like a ghost they did not see. She headed toward her classroom but stopped when a pair of older boys rushed past. One bumped her shoulder lightly, not enough to hurt, just enough to push her a step sideways. He did not apologize. He didn't even notice the contact. She was simply not present in his world. Myra steadied her books and kept walking. Her classroom was bright and full of the hum of conversation. She chose the seat by the window, far to the side. No one sat near her. No one asked to. Her teachers often forgot to call her name during roll, only to remember when she raised her hand quietly. Today, the history teacher talked about the Rix Dominion, a powerful alien fleet that had threatened human space many years ago. Students listened with half interest, some whispering back and forth, but Mira listened with full attention because she had heard Rick's transmissions before. She had analyzed them. She had learned their patterns, their rhythm, the cold logic behind their planning, and last night, something new had appeared. A faint piece of intercepted communication. Short, fragmented, easy to overlook, but not to her. She could not stop thinking about it. It pulsed in the back of her mind like a quiet alarm that never fully shut off. After class ended, while everyone rushed to lunch, Mira slipped away to the old robotics lab. It was a forgotten room, rarely used anymore, because the academy had built a newer, nicer lab on the upper level. The old one was dusty, full of outdated machines and half-finished student projects. Mira loved it. It was her place, her sanctuary. She set her books aside and powered on her personal terminal. The screen opened with a soft blue glow. She entered her login code and the encrypted passphrase the Coalition had given her. The file she wanted appeared immediately. Last night's signal, she listened to it again. A strange pulse, a clicking pattern, a sharp tone that meant movement, another that meant time, a third that meant location, but the location code was incomplete. Still, she recognized something dangerous. She ran it through her decryption programs. The results crawled onto the screen. Dominion Recon Unit Target, Educational Facility Her. Breath stopped. She checked again. She rewrote her decoding program. She fed the audio into a different analyzer. Same result. A Rix Recon unit was planning a covert infiltration. And the target was a school. She checked the surrounding signals, the local patterns, the timing. It took almost half an hour of silent work before she allowed herself to accept the truth. The target was her academy. For a long moment she sat still, fingers frozen above the console. Her heart beat faster, but not in panic. It was something else, something sharper. Something that wanted her to act. She stood quickly and left the lab. She needed to tell someone, the head of security, a teacher. The principal? She decided on Instructor Varn, the only teacher who had ever said she was promising. Maybe he would listen. She found him in the corridor talking to two other instructors. She waited patiently until he noticed her presence, which took longer than she expected. "Yes. Do you need something?" he asked. Mira nodded, clutching her tablet. "Sir, I found something important." "Something dangerous?" "I think the academy is being targeted." He blinked. "Targeted?" "Mira, this is a school, not a military base. I know, but the data." "What data?" he asked, cutting her off with gentle confusion. She swallowed. "An intercepted alien signal. It mentioned a recon unit. In this location." Varn exchanged glances with the other instructors. They looked amused. "Mira," Varn said, "students aren't supposed to access alien transmissions. You must be misunderstanding something. Those files are extremely advanced." "But I am not misunderstanding," Mira whispered. He sighed, not unkindly. "Look, you're a bright girl, but this is probably from some outdated exercise file or a misread waveform. Don't worry about it. Focus on your classes, all right?" She stood there, silent. He returned to his conversation. Mira walked away slowly. No one believed her. No one ever believed her, really. They didn't see her. Why would they listen when she warned them about an invisible threat from the stars? She returned to the old robotics lab, closed the door behind her, and leaned against it. She felt the hollow weight of helplessness press against her chest. For a few minutes, she did nothing. Then she wiped her eyes with the back of her sleeve and walked back to her terminal. If no one would help, she would have to act alone. She opened a storage cabinet and pulled out a dusty box of drone, parts old models students had abandoned. Mira laid them out on the table. Some motors were dead. Some sensors were cracked. Others had firmware so outdated they might as well have been fossils. But Mira knew how to fix them. She spent the next few hours repairing one of the small drones. She replaced its failing parts, rewired its sensors, and upgraded its processing core with a hidden chip she had designed herself. It was a messy job. She had to use tape to secure the wings and solder wires in places they weren't meant to be. When she finished, the drone looked ugly but determined, like a metal insect willing to fly even if its wings were weak. She powered it on. A soft hum filled the room. The drone lifted shakily into the air. Mira smiled. She had one working drone. It wasn't enough, but it was a start. She uploaded the school's internal layout into its small memory. Corridors, vents, hidden, maintenance tunnels. The academy was old, built in layers, forgotten passages beneath the shiny new ones. If the Ricks were coming, they would likely use those tunnels. Alien recon units specialized in stealth. They preferred structures humans ignored, so Mira sent the drone into the vents. Her tablet showed a shaky video feed. Dust, pipes, metal grids. The drone buzzed forward, scanning for heat signatures. Minutes passed, then the drone froze. Its camera showed something, a faint blue shimmer. Heat reading. Rising movement detected. Mira leaned closer. The shimmer sharpened into shape the curve of armor. The pattern of Rick's cloaking plates, flickering in and out of visibility. As the alien moved silently through the vent, her breath caught. The Ricks were already here. She felt fear rise in her stomach. Her hands trembled slightly, but the fear did not control her. She steadied her, breathing and watched the feed carefully. There were two of them, No-3, all armed, all moving with precision. They were heading toward the central area of the school, toward the broadcast room. Why the broadcast room? Mira thought quickly. What did they want to do with it? She didn't know, and that scared her more than the aliens themselves. She guided the drone back. But before it could retreat, one of the Rick soldiers turned, its head tilted, listening. It heard the drone. The feed blurred. Static. The signal cut out. Mira stared at the blank screen, her pulse pounding. This was no longer a threat she could ignore. This was no longer a distant danger hidden in data. This was real. Aliens were inside her. School, and no one else knew. Mira closed her eyes, inhaled deeply, and made a choice. She would not stay invisible. Not today, if she had to protect the academy alone. She would. She straightened her shoulders, tied her hair tighter, and gathered every tool she could carry. The halls outside were still full of laughter and normal life, but beneath their feet, the dark tunnels no one else remembered. Danger was moving closer. Mira walked out of the robotics lab with quiet determination. No one noticed her. The old robotics lab was silent after Mira left it, but her mind was loud. Every step she took through the hallway echoed with the same thought. The Ricks were inside the school, not outside, not approaching. Already inside and no one knew, students continued laughing at their lockers. A group played a loud card game near the stairwell. Someone dropped a bottle and it rolled across the floor. The air smelled like cafeteria noodles and cleaning spray. Everything looked normal but beneath them. Hidden in the dark vents and maintenance tunnels, danger crawled closer. Mira kept her pace even. She did not run. Running would draw attention, and she did not want eyes on her not yet. Her mind raced, organizing priorities. She needed information. She needed tools. She needed a plan. Most of all, she needed to stay unseen. The Ricks valued stealth. If they were here, they expected humans to remain unaware. As long as Mira kept herself invisible, she had an advantage. She walked toward the library. It was empty during lunch. Most students avoided it unless they needed last-minute homework help. Mira slipped inside. Closing the door softly behind her, the quiet was comforting. She took a seat at the back table and opened her tablet. The drone's final recording replayed on the cracked screen. The blurry blue shimmer of Rick's armor, their subtle movements, their unified direction toward the broadcast room. Why that room? She tried to think like them. What purpose did it serve? The Academy broadcast system connected to the local planetary network. Every morning it sent announcements, schedules, transport updates, but that was small scale, unless the Ricks wanted something else. She zoomed in on a paused frame. A gloved Rick's hand held a small device with spikes on its surface. She studied it. She recognized the shape. It was a Dominion signal injector. Her stomach tightened. If they reached the broadcast room, they could override the Academy's system. They could send a message far beyond the school, maybe to the city, maybe to the colony, maybe even to the entire star sector. What message would they send? A threat? A false command? A panic-triggering lie? Humans were easy to frighten. The Ricks knew that. With one false broadcast, they could create chaos. Mira's fingers trembled slightly as she paused the video. She imagined the panic. People running. Signals jamming. Defense systems going on lockdown. The Ricks could slip in or slip out under that confusion if no one stopped them. She leaned back in her chair. Breathing slowly, she needed more drones. One drone had found the aliens, but it was gone now, destroyed. If she sent more unprotected, they would be destroyed too. She needed better equipment. Her eyes turned to the library's corner, where the maintenance supply closet stood. The door was slightly open, and inside she could see cleaning drones resting on their charging pads. They were slow, designed to mop hallways and sweep dirt, but they had sensors, and Mira knew how to upgrade sensors. She stood up, walked to the closet, and quietly closed the door behind her. She crouched next to one of the cleaning drones and examined its wiring. Basic, weak, but workable. She opened her bag, took out tools, and began modifying the first drone. She attached a small transmitter, rewired the visual sensor, and adjusted the mobility pads so it could crawl more quietly. Her hands worked fast. She added a simple cloaking pattern, nothing as advanced as Rick's tech, but enough to blur its movement. She tested it. The drone slid forward silently. Good. She modified a second one. Then a third. By the time the school bell rang for next period, she had 3 small, stealthy drones ready to go. She tucked them under her bag, left the closet. and slipped out of the library, students began filling the hallways again. Mira kept her head down and blended into the noise. She didn't attend her next class. Instead, she walked carefully to the stairwell and descended to the older lower levels of the school. The air became cooler and mustier. Fewer lights worked. The walls were plain gray metal instead of the bright panels upstairs. These levels were mostly storage and unused rooms. Perfect. Mira reached a locked service door. She typed a code on the panel one she had discovered years ago. When she explored the school's forgotten sections, the door clicked open. Inside was a dim corridor with dusty air. Pipes lined the ceiling. The floor was rough. This was where maintenance bots used to operate, before the school upgraded its systems. Myra released the first drone. It hovered low and moved forward quietly. Its small camera displayed a grainy feed on her tablet. She followed behind. Keeping distance, as the drone turned a corner, Mira noticed prints on the dust-covered floor. Not human prints, clawed large fresh. Her heart beat faster, but she continued forward. After another corner, the drone paused. Its heat sensor flickered movement ahead. Mira dropped to the ground, crawling quietly until she could peek around the corner, and there they were, 3 Rick soldiers, crouched near a junction panel. Their armor shimmered softly, blending into the dim surroundings, but not enough to fool her eyes, now that she knew how to look. They worked in complete silence. One used sharp tools to cut into the school's wiring. Another monitored a side device with a glowing screen. The third stood guard, scanning periodically. Myra recorded everything. Her drone stayed hidden behind a pipe. She watched their movements. They were efficient, focused, dangerous. She counted their weapons, a pair of shock blades, energy pistols with suppressors, armor that absorbed sound. Humans would never hear them coming. She had to be smart. She sent her second drone in a different direction, mapping the tunnels. The feed showed a long path leading toward the broadcast room. If the Ricks finished rewiring this control junction, they could reroute all signals. She needed to delay them. But how? She examined her tools. She had tiny circuit disruptors, a low-power EMP patch, and a small battery pack. Not enough to fight, but enough to distract. She placed a circuit disruptor on the wall. It flashed once. The lights flickered. The Ricks froze. Their heads turned sharply. Myra held her breath. The Ricks scanned the area, but the disruptor had turned off. The lights stabilized. After a moment, they resumed working. But now they were slower. More cautious, she needed to delay them again. She crawled forward another meter. Staying in shadows, she activated the EMP patch. A faint pulse moved through the corridor. The Rick's tools blinked off. This time the soldiers reacted instantly. Weapons came out. They scanned aggressively. Mira retreated silently, keeping her breath controlled. One Rick soldier moved toward the corner where she had been moments ago. She slid behind a pipe, heart hammering. The soldier's shimmering form came closer. It leaned in, sniffing the air. Mira stilled every muscle. Time stretched finally. The soldier turned back to the others. Mira waited several minutes before she dared move. They were now suspicious and slower. That was enough. She did not need to defeat them here. She only had to reach the broadcast room first. She signaled her drones to continue forward. The second drone displayed a path with no enemy movement. Good. Mira hurried forward, moving through intersecting tunnels. Every sound felt louder to her ears. Every shadow felt deeper. She knew she was the only human down here. Everyone else was upstairs, unaware of what crawled beneath them. After 10 minutes of winding tunnels, Myra's drone reached a ladder leading up. She climbed it. Pushing gently on the hatch at the top, it opened into a storage room filled with old monitors and broken chairs. This room was close to the broadcast. Center Myra gathered her drones and crept toward the door. She peeked into the hallway, empty. She stepped out. The broadcast room was just ahead its door, marked with a bright yellow panel. But as she approached, her third drone buzzed with an alert movement behind her. Mira spun around. A faint shimmer appeared at the far end of the hallway. A Rick soldier had followed her. Mira's chest tightened. She took a step back. The soldier moved faster, closing distance. She clutched her drone controller. She had no weapons, but she had her mind. The soldier lunged. Mira dove aside. The creature's blade scraped the wall, silent but deadly. She scrambled to her feet and dashed toward the broadcast room. The Ricks followed. Her hand slapped the door panel. It opened. She threw herself inside and hit the emergency lock. The door sealed. A second later, a heavy thud hit the other side. The Rick soldier tried to break through. Mira backed away, panting. The broadcast room was filled with screens, consoles, wires, and the tall transmission. Tower control in the center. She needed to secure it. She rushed to the console and scanned its systems. Everything was unlocked, unprotected. The Ricks could override this in seconds. If they reached it, she had to lock it down. She plugged her tablet into the console. Her custom security program loaded. She typed rapidly, creating a firewall, setting encryption layers, rerouting backup signals. The thudding at the door grew louder. Her hands moved. Faster, she locked the system, just as the Rick slammed. The door hard enough to crack the framed out. Myra stepped back from the console she had secured. It for now, but she knew the Ricks would not stop, and they were not the only threat in the tunnels. Below, the main group was still coming. Mira inhaled. Slowly, she had saved the broadcast room, temporarily. But the real fight had only just begun. The broadcast room felt too small for Mira Halden. Too bright, too quiet. The screens glowed softly in the dim light, but they did nothing to calm the storm inside her chest. The Rick soldier outside the door slammed its armored body against the metal again, causing the hinges to rattle. Mira backed deeper into the room, clutching her tablet close. She could hear the creature's claws scraping lightly as it prepared for another strike. The door would not hold forever. She had locked the system. But that meant nothing if a Rick soldier managed to get inside and tear the console apart. She needed to think fast. Her eyes darted around the room, taking in everything with quick, sharp focus. There were 3 side consoles, a bookshelf of old technical manuals, a cabinet full of cables, and a storage crate of unused equipment. Nothing looked like a weapon, but Mira had never needed weapons. She had tools. She knelt beside the crate and opened it. Inside were unused communication chips, signal wires, and small power packs. She grabbed the power packs immediately. They could overload a Rick's cloak if Tim Ed correctly. A loud crack burst through the room. The door frame split. Mira's heart jumped. She scrambled back, toward the central console, her pulse ringing in her ears. Stay calm, Myra. Think. She set the power packs on the floor and pulled open the control panel beneath the main screen. Wires sprawled out like tangled vines. She recognized the red ones, those controlled emergency lighting. The orange ones powered secondary screens. But the blue wires, they controlled internal energy flow. If she rerouted them, she could trigger a feedback pulse. A dangerous one. One that might hurt her too, if she wasn't careful. Another slam hit the door. This time, the metal bent inward. The Rick soldier let out a low growl. Muffled by the thick door, Mira's fingers flew across the wires. She cut 2 blue wires, twisted them together, connected them to a spare power pack. The lights flickered, the console hummed loudly. She swallowed. Come on, please work. Do. The door burst inward. Myra spun around. The Rick soldier stepped in. Its cloak shimmered, revealing its tall, armored form. Its blade extended silently from its wrist, glowing with chilling blue energy. Mira held her breath. The creature scanned the room slowly. Its attention landed on the console. It stepped forward. Myra tapped her tablet. The room exploded with white light. The feedback pulse burst outward like a shockwave. The Rick soldier staggered, its cloak flickering wildly. Sparks jumped across its armor. It let out a sharp metallic hiss and struck blindly. Mira ducked behind the console. A blade slashed above her head. The pulse died down. The Rick stumbled, but it did not fall. Mira scrambled across the floor, grabbing 2 power packs. She threw one at the soldier's feet. It stepped on the device, crushing it, but that was enough. The pack burst with a small electrical pop. The creature froze, its armor flickering again. Mira rolled forward and shoved the second power pack into the gap between its chest plates. The pack detonated. The Rix let out a silent scream and collapsed. Its armor smoking, Mira sat on the floor, gasping for air. Her arms trembled. Sweat dripped down her forehead. She had done it. She had defeated a Rix soldier, but she did not feel safe. She stood slowly and checked the hallway. It was empty. No shimmering forms. No heavy steps. But she heard something else. A deep metallic rumble. She knew that sound. Rick's reinforcements. She closed the broadcast room door and locked it again. It was damaged, but maybe it would hold long enough. Her tablet buzzed. One of her drones. 2 was sending an alert. She opened the feed. The drone hovered inside a long tunnel. Its camera pointed at a group of Rick soldiers. Not 3. Not for 7. They moved in coordinated formation, their armor glowing faintly. One carried a large device much bigger than the earlier signal injector. A Dominion pulse detonator. Mira swallowed hard. A detonator placed inside a school full of civilians would cause chaos. Not a physical explosion, but a communication collapse. Every system emergency alarms, colony communication. Even nearby defense channels would go dark. For at least 10 minutes. 10 minutes was enough time for the Rix to launch an attack, and Mira knew the soldiers were heading for the broadcast room. They needed to destroy her. Security lock. She needed to stop them. Her hands tightened around the tablet. She could not run anymore. She opened the old wiring panel again. The feedback pulse she had created was too dangerous to use twice, especially with a larger device nearby. But she could still use the room's systems. She scanned the console, speaker, controls, lights, emergency sprinklers, maintenance bot controls. That was it. She tapped the maintenance bot controls. The screen showed a map of the lower halls and tunnels. Tiny icons represented old floor cleaning bots, storage movers, and unused maintenance arms. She grinned slightly. She could use them. The Rix marched closer. She could hear them now soft. Synchronized steps. No human would notice that sound, but Mira heard it. She understood it. She selected a group of 20 maintenance bots. She sent them an order. Block the tunnel. Slow them down. Create noise. Distract. The bots activated. The tunnel camera showed them rolling forward. Old wheels squeaked. Some bots sprayed cleaning foam. Others beeped in confusion. They looked ridiculous, but they formed a wall. The Rix stopped. One Rix soldier stepped forward and kicked a bot aside. The bot flew into the wall and shattered. Another bot sprayed the soldier's legs with soap. Mira almost laughed, but she stayed focused. The Rix soldiers pushed forward, smashing bots one by one. But the delays were working. Their formation broke. Their coordination thinned. Mira sent Drone 1. Through an alternate tunnel route, she needed to hit them from another angle as Drone 1 approached. Mira spotted something important. The Dominion pulse detonator was vulnerable. Its top panel was exposed. If she could overload it remotely, she zoomed in on the drone's tools. It had a small cutting laser. Perfect. She directed the drone carefully. It lifted above the Rix group, its tiny laser warming up. The Rix soldiers were distracted by the maintenance bots. Drone 1 aimed its laser cut into the detonator's exposed panel. A spark burst then. Another, the detonator bipped a warning tone. One Rix soldier looked up. It saw the drone. It jumped for it. Drone 1 darted sideways. The Rix blade sliced the air where it had been. The detonator exploded. not violently, but with a blinding flash of blue energy, the Rick's soldiers were thrown backward. Their cloaks failed. Their armor sparked. The entire tunnel shook. Drone One's feed turned white for a moment, then returned. 4 Rick's soldiers were down. 3 were struggling to stand. Mira exhaled shakily, but then she heard it anew. Sound heavier, deeper. Something massive was moving through the tunnel. Drone 1 turned its camera. A Rick's captain. This one wore thick armor, glowing faintly with red lines. It was taller, broader, far more dangerous. Mira felt her stomach drop. The captain stepped over fallen Rick's soldiers and continued forward, dragging the remains of a broken detonator behind it. It was heading for the broadcast room, and Mira was out of time. She grabbed the last power pack and shoved it into her pocket. She took her tablet and backed away from the consoles. The door behind her shook violently. The Rick's captain had arrived. Mira held her breath. The door buckled. A second strike made the lights flicker. Mira backed into the corner of the room. Then the door shattered. The Rick's captain stepped inside. Its red-lined armor glowed like a warning. Its mask curved into a cold, sharp design. Its eyes glowed with pale light. It stared at Mira. She stared back, her heart pounded. Her legs trembled. But her eyes stayed steady. The Rick's captain raised its blade. Mira moved. She pulled the power pack from her pocket and slammed it against the console. The room erupted in sparks. A bolt of electricity shot through the air and struck the captain's armor. The captain roared a low, guttural sound. Myra ducked behind the console. The captain staggered, but only for a moment. Its armor regenerated, its eyes narrowed. It stepped forward. Mira crawled away, her movements desperate. She grabbed her tablet and triggered the last maintenance bots in the area. They burst through a sidewall panel, crashing into the captain. The captain sliced them apart, but that gave Mira time. She ran for the hallway. She sprinted. She did not dare look back. Her lungs burned. Her legs ached. But she kept running. Behind her, the Rick's captain roared. And Mira knew this was far from over. Mira sprinted through the dim hallway, her breath sharp and uneven. The cold metal floor echoed under her shoes, each step a reminder that the Rick's captain was only seconds behind her. She glanced back once, just once, and saw its towering shape forcing its way out of the broadcast room. Smoke rising from its cracked armor, her heart pounded harder. She pushed herself faster. She turned a corner, out, and nearly slipped on the dusty floor. The old lower levels of the academy were a maze, full of abandoned rooms, broken storage lockers, and shadows that stretched like claws. Mira didn't slow down. She knew every turn. She had explored these forgotten halls countless times, long before she ever imagined she would need them to survive. Behind her, a heavy metallic thump echoed. The captain was close. Mira ducked into a side passage, breathing hard. She pressed her back against the wall and tried to stay silent. Despite her pounding chest, the footsteps grew louder. Closer, a long shadow stretched across the passage. Mira held her breath. The Rick's captain stepped into view, moving with slow, precise steps. Its glowing eyes scanned the hall. Its armor hummed with low energy. It held a curved blade in one hand, the weapon humming with deadly blue light. Mira stayed still. The captain turned its head slightly, listening for a terrifying second. Myra thought it had sensed her, but then it moved on. The moment it disappeared around the corner, Mira slipped away in the opposite direction. She kept her steps as light as possible. The last thing she needed was to draw its attention while she was unarmed and exhausted. She needed a plan. She needed time. Most of all, she needed help from the most LCE. Needed help from the systems she still controlled. Mira pulled out her tablet as she moved and opened the Academy's maintenance map. Half of the lower-level bots were destroyed from the last fight, but there were still a few left scattered across the school. If she could gather them, if she could coordinate them, she might stand a chance. Her tablet buzzed. Drone 3 had regained stable. Video Myra tapped the feed. The drone hovered near an intersection above the tunnels. From its camera, she saw 4 Rick soldiers trying to recover. They moved slowly, shaking off the effects of the detonator. Overload. And she saw something else. The captain had ordered 2 of them to regroup and continue toward the broadcast control system. Myra's eyes widened. The broadcast room was compromised. But the Ricks didn't know that the system was fully locked. Their next move would be to bypass her lock manually. If they succeeded, they could still send out a false signal. No, she couldn't let that happen. Mira changed direction. Heading toward the upper maintenance stairwell, her legs burned with every step, but she kept going. She climbed the stairs and emerged onto the 3rd floor of the academy. It was quiet, too quiet. Classes were in session, and the bright hallways were nearly empty. A few students walked by, chatting softly. None of them looked at her. No one knew that war hid beneath their feet. No one knew Mira was fighting it alone. She pressed herself against the wall as a group of students turned the corner. Her chest tightened. She didn't want them involved. She didn't want them in danger. She waited until they disappeared, then hurried toward the central elevator room. This room held 2 things she needed: access to the school's central wiring hub and a connection to the defense beacon line. She walked to the large metal panel near the elevator. It was marked Authorized Personnel, only in bold red letters. Mira grabbed a broken key card from her pocket one she had found months ago, discarded in a trash bin. She slid it into the panel slot and used her tablet to override the code. The panel clicked open. Inside, dozens of wires ran in all directions, bright colors twisted together like a giant metal vine. Mira began searching for one cable in particular. It's the orange line with the triple stripe pattern, the emergency relay line. If she activated it, she could send a silent distress signal to the Academy's security network, even if humans didn't understand what it meant. The Coalition defense systems would. Then she found it. The orange cable. She connected her tablet to it and typed in her authorization code. Her tablet flashed yellow. Authorization. Level 2. Mira's stomach dropped. She tried again. Same message. She bit her lip. Fine. She would force it. She opened her custom override tool and bypassed the code sequence. Sparks snapped from the cable. Her tablet hummed loudly. For a moment, she worried it would explode. Then her tablet flashed green. Emergency relay activated. A small relief washed over her, but it lasted only a second, because the floor trembled. Heavy metallic footsteps sounded at the far end of the hallway. Mira stiffened. She slowly turned her head. The Rick's captain stood at the entrance of the hallway. Its tall, armored figure filled the space like a nightmare-given form. Its mask gleamed with cold light. Its eyes locked onto her instantly. Mira's breath caught. The captain raised its blade. It charged Mira, grabbed the orange cable and ripped it out. Sparks shot across the panel. She jumped back as the wires snapped violently. The captain reached her. She dove aside. Its blade cut into the panel, slicing metal and sending out a burst of sparks. Mira sprinted down the hall. The captain followed. She darted around a corner, nearly colliding with a teacher carrying a stack of papers. Slow down. The teacher snapped, but Myra didn't stop. The teacher looked confused until a massive armored creature charged into view. The teacher screamed and dropped the papers. Students in nearby classrooms heard the noise and peeked out. Gasps filled the hallway. Mira's chest tightened. She didn't want them here. Run, she shouted. Students scattered in all directions. The Rick's captain didn't look at them. It kept moving toward Myra. She led it away, down another hallway, toward a set of double doors that led to the old gymnasium. She burst through the doors and ran inside. The gym was large, dusty, filled with old mats and broken training equipment. Sunlight filtered through high windows. Mira turned around. The captain entered. The gym door slammed shut behind it. Mira's mind raced. She needed a trap fast. She scanned the room. Old weight machines. Loose. Cables, metal beams. Then it clicked. She raced toward the climbing rope frame. It was tall, held up by thick metal poles and supported by rusty bolts. She grabbed one of the ropes and climbed up, her arms and legs burning. The captain followed slowly. Watching her with cold eyes, Mira reached the top of the frame and swung onto a metal beam. The bolts creaked. The captain raised its blade and sliced the rope. Mira barely caught another beam. The captain reached the base of the framed it, lifted its blade. It struck the metal pole. The frame shook. Mira clung tightly. The captain hit it. Again, a bolt snapped. The entire frame tilted. Mira scrambled across the beam, grabbed a hanging cable, and slid down fast. The frame collapsed. The metal poles crashed onto the captain, pinning it under heavy beams. The gym floor shook with the impact. Dust filled the air. Mira landed hard but safe. She got up and stepped back. The captain lay under the fallen frame, struggling. Its armor sparked. Its blade flickered. It wasn't dead, but it wasn't getting up soon. Mira breathed out. Trembling then, her tablet buzzed. Drone to alert. Rick's soldiers approaching broadcast system at seconds. Mira's eyes widened. The fight wasn't over, not even close. She sprinted for the gym doors. Her legs were weak. Her ribs ached and her lungs burned, but she kept going. Students peered out from classrooms as she ran down the hallway. Some whispered. Some stared for the first time. They noticed her, but Mira didn't slow down. Ricks were still moving. The school was still in danger, and Mira Halden was not done fighting, not yet. The academy halls were, shaking with distant echoes as Mira ran. Her legs felt like they were made of heavy stone, and her lungs burned so badly she could barely breathe, but she did not stop. She could not stop. The Rick soldiers were heading straight toward the broadcast control system. She had less than a minute. She pushed through the thick fear sitting in her chest and forced herself to move faster. Her shoes pounded the ground as she sprinted past empty classrooms and flickering hallway lights. Every second that passed was another second the Ricks were closer to reaching their goal. Her tablet buzzed again. Drone. 2. Enemy distance, 45 seconds. Her heart tightened. She turned sharply and slid down the rail of a staircase, landing hard but staying upright. A wave of pain shot up her ankle, but she ignored it. She ran. The broadcast control room was on the second floor near the media wing. The hallways were quiet now. Students had locked themselves in classrooms after seeing the Rick's captain earlier. The building was tense, like it was holding its breath. Mira reached the last hallway and she froze. 2 Rick soldiers were already there. They're tall. Armored figures stood outside the broadcast door, working together to break the manual lock. Sparks flew as they cut through the metal. Their sharp voices spoke in low alien tones. Mira's stomach dropped. She didn't have time to fight both. She barely had the energy left to fight one. She glanced around quickly. A cleaning cart. A vent. A fallen ceiling tile. A fire hose cabinet. Her mind raced. She looked up. Above the doorway was a loose metal beam from earlier renovation work. It hung slightly lower than the rest of the ceiling, if she could drop it. She took a shaky breath and reached into the cleaning cart. She grabbed a long metal pole used for changing ceiling lights. Her hands trembled, but she tightened her grip. She quietly approached the beam. The Rick soldiers remained focused on the door. Unaware, Mira raised the pole. She hit the beam. It shook. She hit it. Again, the metal groaned. One of the soldiers turned. Mira's heart jumped. She hit the beam a third time. The bolt snapped. The beam crashed down. Rick's soldier that had turned reacted too late. The heavy metal slammed into both of them, knocking them to the ground with a loud metallic smash. Sparks burst from their armor as they struggled beneath the fallen beam. Mira didn't wait. She ran to the broadcast door and entered the backup. Code she had said earlier. The door slid open. She rushed inside. The room was dim, filled with screens and wires everywhere. The main console glowed with a red warning message. System lockdown, ACTIV. She moved to the control panel and tapped the emergency command. Her fingers trembled so badly, she kept hitting the wrong keys. "Come on," she whispered. "Come on, please." Outside, metal scraped against metal. The Ricks soldiers were freeing themselves. Mira's breathing sped up. She pressed another command. The system responded. Broadcast status. Manual override. Erika read as she locked the door from the inside. She plugged her tablet into the main slot and typed the final sequence. Authorization. Accepted. Then the entire room lit up with bright blue. Emergency. Signal. Mira felt a wave of relief wash over her so suddenly that she nearly collapsed. The distress signal had gone out. The coalition systems would receive it. The Ricks would not take control, but she was not safe yet. The broadcast room door shook hard. Mira turned. The Ricks soldiers outside were trying to break in. The metal door thudded. As they hit it again, she stepped back, her legs trembling. Another crash. The door bent inward. Mira grabbed a fallen pipe from the corner of the room. She held it tightly in both hands, even though she knew it would barely slow them down. The door bent again. Then a loud metallic screech echoed from the hallway. One of the Rick soldiers fell against the glass window of the control room. It slid down, sparks flashing from its armor. Mira stared. Behind the fallen soldier stood the Rick's captain. It had broken free. Its mask glowed with sharp red lines. Its armor crackled. Its steps were unsteady, but it still moved with terrifying strength. It shoved the injured soldiers aside and raised its blade. The door crackled. Mira backed away until she hit the console. She felt her chest tighten. She had nothing left. The captain struck the door. It split. Another strike. The door started falling inward. The captain stepped through the opening, towering over her. Its mask stared down at her, its eyes glowing bright blue. Its voice rumbled like thunder. "You will not win." Mira tightened her grip on the pipe. She swallowed, and then the building shook. A deep, booming sound echoed from outside. The captain froze. Mira blinked. Another boom. A familiar sound. A coalition trap. It was here. The Rick's captain turned its head sharply toward the window. Mira looked outside. Through the glass wall, bright lights flashed. Blue energy beams cut through the sky. A massive defense ship hovered above the academy, and several smaller crafts were landing on the rooftop. Coalition soldiers stormed into the building. The Rick's captain growled. Its eyes returned to Mira. It charged. Mira raised the pipe, but before the captain could reach Hertha, control room wall exploded inward. Coalition security bots burst through in a cloud of sparks and smoke. 3 of them tackled the captain at once. Energy nets wrapped around its limbs. The captain roared and struggled, but the bots tightened their hold. Mira stumbled back. Shaking, a human soldier rushed into the room next. He wore the dark blue armor of the Coalition Defense Unit. He scanned the room until his eyes found Mira. "You're Mira Halden?" he asked, stunned. She nodded weakly. His expression shifted from confusion to, "Ah, ma'am, you just stopped a Ricks infiltration on your own." Mira didn't know what to say. Her legs gave out. The soldier caught her before she hit the floor. "You're safe now," he said gently. But as Mira's vision blurred, she noticed something strange. The academy's intercom screen flickered. The system had Rebdo. Blue text appeared. Emergency record logging the local crisis averted by Cadet Mira held on her. Eyes widened. The announcement blasted through every speaker of the school. "Attention all students and staff. The threat has been neutralized. Crisis prevented by Cadet Mira Halden. Status: Provisional War Hero." Mira's heart thud. Dead, she heard gasps from hallways. Classrooms opened. Students stepped out. Teachers. Everyone heard it. Everyone knew. For the first time. They looked at Myra, truly looked. Not as the quiet girl in the back. Not as the invisible student, but as the girl who saved them all. The soldier. Helped her stand. Myra looked at the screen one last time. Then her eyes closed. And she finally let herself rest. When she woke again hours later, she was in the academy medical wing. Coalition officers stood at the door. Students crowded outside, whispering. Teachers sat nearby, giving her soft smiles. Myra, a quiet voice said. Her instructor, Mr. Wren, stepped forward. I misjudged you, he said softly. We all did. Myra looked down shyly. She wasn't sure what to say. Another officer approached her. We reviewed your drone data, your override skills, and your combat logs, the woman said. Your actions prevented a planetary incident. Humanity owes you. Myra's cheeks warmed. She still felt small, but not invisible. The officer handed her a small silver badge, a provisional hero emblem. Students. Outside, the medical wing whispered loudly when they saw it. Myra took the badge. Slowly, her fingers trembled. She wasn't used to people watching her, but she smiled. Small, tired. Real smile. The world felt a little different now. Not because she wanted fame, not because she needed attention, but because, for the first time in her life, people finally saw her, and Myra hauled in quiet. Unnoticed, Myra had saved them all.